Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside Out Vietnam. My name is Janelle Fossler, and I'm the Program Director for International House Ann Arbor, or IHAA. IHAA offers residential and educational programs that foster understanding and respect for all cultures, identities, and backgrounds. Each year, IHAA hosts around 100 students, scholars, and faculty members from all over the United States and the world. And before the pandemic, we typically had around 75 events a year that were open to the public to increase opportunities for intercultural exchange and dialogue. So I'd like to introduce Phat. Do you want to wave? There he is. Yay. I want to introduce Phat, who'll be providing an overview tonight of Vietnam. I'd like to sincerely thank him for taking time to be with us tonight and also prepare for this event. Phat is currently a sophomore at the University of Michigan, and he's intending to pursue a health or science-related major. He was born and raised in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and moved to the US for college. Some of his hobbies include taking walks, drawing, and spending a lot of time that we all have more of right now during the pandemic, watching random YouTube videos. So you can save those kinds of questions for him as well for the end. Before I pass things over to Phat, I'd like to just provide the disclaimer that parts of Phat's presentation tonight will be sharing his perspective of Vietnam, which is something that will be really valuable for all of us to hear. But I always just like to have the disclaimer to just remember that not to generalize this to how everyone in Vietnam may feel, same as we also can't speak for our entire home country or countries. Before I pass, thank you all for being here again, and I will pass things over to Phat to get started.
Thank you for coming. Welcome. I'm just gonna introduce myself quickly. My name is Phat. As Janelle told you guys, I'm a sophomore at the University of Michigan, and I'm actually working on my application to the nursing school. So that's kind of where I'm going. So I was born and raised in Ho Chi Minh City before I flew to the US for college. And yeah, so I've lived there for the majority of my life. And so for this presentation, I'll just go through what I guess is what my country means to me, but I also try to my best to cover a broad range of topics, so you guys to get a very comprehensive view of my country. Okay, meet my family. That's my family. I have a little sister, but this is my big family, and it's made of essentially 3 immediate families. So this is on my mom's side, and so this is her, and this is her little sister, and this is their youngest brother, and so it's the 3 family. And we kind of own, well, my grandma and my mom and her siblings run a family business. We sell clothing, and I'm gonna cover the topic of family just a little bit later on. And yeah, I just want to give you guys a little context. Geography. Where is Vietnam on the map? Does anyone have guesses? There's I know there's a little sticker feature that you can use on the top of your screen right next to the green bar. There's a little black tab, and you can try to put a piece of text or something on the screen. Okay, I don't know who did that, but that was pretty accurate. Yeah, awesome. Is that you? Great. I think that was Carrie. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So if you notice, it is near the equator, roughly, but it is very close to the equator. And as a result, it is a very tropical and temperate region. A little bit on the hotter side. Well, at least compared to Michigan during the winter. And the temperature is also very stable. Like I said, totally opposite of Michigan. Not sure why I chose Michigan to go to college, but it's wildly different from where I live. We really only have 2 seasons, and they're actually dictated by the type of monsoon that are present at that time. So from October to April, we have the northeast, aka the dry monsoon, so dry air. It's a little drier, still pretty hot. Um, I'd say around 30 degrees Celsius. So I think that's around like 70 to no, that's around 80 to 90 Fahrenheit, if my conversion is correct. And then from May to September, we have the Southwest, aka the wetter monsoon. So we call this the rainy season, as opposed to the dry seasons. And so it rains a lot. And when I said a lot, I mean a lot, a lot. But there are still some variations in the temperature and the climate throughout the geography of Vietnam, and I'm going to kind of cover it right now. Um, in general, the geography has a lot of things like rivers, forests, coastlines, caves. So, how do people distinguish the regions of Vietnam? One common way to view it is that it's comprised of three main regions: northern, central, and south, where I'm from. Each has kind of its own history and geography, but I'm just going to cover them pretty quickly. So up north, the summer temperature is around 25 to 30 Celsius, so 77 to 86 Fahrenheit. And this temperature is pretty much the same or very similar across all three regions. So I'm just going to mention it once here. But up north, it's one of the areas that can get the coldest, and sometimes it even goes down to 0 Celsius. So it does snow very rarely and usually on high altitude, but it does snow. Yep, best time to visit February to March, and it's pretty much the same time for all three regions too, because it's kind of smack dab right in the middle of the dry season. Because you do not want to visit Vietnam during the wet season. It rains a lot, and sometimes it's really hard to just travel around. And on very, very rare occasions, can be dangerous especially if you're like going out to sea or like going to an island. Places to visit here: Hanoi, that's our capital. It's the second largest city in Vietnam. Lovely city, older architecture, a lot of greens, and lots and lots of coffee shop if that's your thing. Um, though most of my family and close relative lives in the south, my grandma originally came from Hanoi. That's her hometown. And some of the things we have here are in the middle picture. That's the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, and Ho Chi Minh is a very famous political figure in Vietnam. He was essentially the 20th century communist revolutionist leader, and he essentially brought the country to like independence, and it paved way for like the unity of like the southern and northern part of Vietnam, which back then had essentially clashing ideologies. On the far right picture, that's Turtle Lake. Turtle Lake. Sorry, I gotta pronounce it again. In Vietnamese, it's that's Ho Kong Rua. Another name for it is Ho Han Kim, and the literal translation of that is Return Sword Lake. Does anyone want to take a jab as why it has these two names? Feel free to go like outside of the box because it's based off of a folklore. So it's a simple story, but it has like a fantasy element to it. Yeah, so I want to take a guess.
So is it from maybe like the capital?
Oh, you were thinking like return, like something has to do with the capital? That's a
Yeah.
pretty good guess, yeah.
I-
Anyone else? All right, I guess I'm just gonna tell the story. So it's a myth, kind of, but it's also like based on a historical figure. We have that a lot in Vietnam. I'm not sure why, but it's basically of 15th century emperor. His name is Loi Loi, and he was fighting a war, and he was losing, and it was like invaders. And so he went out into the lake, and then a turtle rose up from the lake, and then it spits out essentially a magical sword that he used to fight the enemies. And then by the end of it, he went back to the lake, and then the turtle rose up. He returned the turtle the sword, and then the turtle swam away. And so he named it after the turtle. And like honestly, I like the fact that like returning the sword has like nothing, like there is, like the act of returning or not returning the sword like does not do anything. Like you think that if he were to return it, he would like get it for like forever or something, but no, the turtle just gets it and kind of swim away. I don't know. My theory is that if he didn't return it, the turtle would probably start to charge him interest. But yeah, Vietnam has like some interesting folktale to say the least. Another area that you can visit here is Ha Long Bay. It's a lot of bays and caves out into the ocean. They're most made of like limestone. They're like islets, so like really small islands. And then there are like these aquatic caves. I'm not sure how they work, but like we have like mountains, and then beneath them are like little cavities that you can actually roll. Beneath, it's like if you see on like these picture I actually took when we were there, it's very like you can touch the ceiling. It's very low. And in fact, these places were so breathtaking that the King Kong, the 2017's release, would actually film in many of these places. And then that's me taking a picture with one of their set piece that they left behind. And then we have Central. Precipitation is pretty high in this area. And it is quite susceptible to flood and storms, especially because it's so narrow and it's still like a large part of it is just like coastal lines. And on October, I should say 2020, there were like a flood/landslide thing that was pretty devastating. But orgs like UNICEF and Blue Dragon have been doing their best to like rescue and resituate a lot of people. Places to visit here: Sundong Cave, largest cave in the world. Apparently, I read that they learned that it's like much bigger than they thought after they realized it's the biggest cave in the world. It's a little overkill, but here you go. We also have Hoi An, ancient town. It's a preserved trading post. Today there's a lot of night markets, river markets, boats, rivers, very aesthetic. If you want to take pictures and like go around, see locals, and like try out a lot of good food, Hoi An's place. And then last is the south. That's where I'm from. Temperature can get to some of the hottest point. Some places to go here is Ho Chi Minh City. So that's the largest city in Vietnam. It was formerly named Saigon City, but then renamed to honor Ho Chi Minh. Some places you can go. That's like the walking street. It's a pretty famous walking street. People go there all the time to shop, to like walk around, bathe in the sun because it is very, very sunny. And then Phu Quoc Islands and other beaches. We have gorgeous beaches, or at least like based on my personal preferences. It's really nice. You can like go around, eat a lot of seafood. But yeah, speaking of fish just speaking of fish, let's talk about the economy because we base a lot of our economy on fish for some reason. It's been rapidly growing our GDP. It from between 2002 to 2018, it's been increasing by 2.7 times. So like right now it's like a little bit over 2,700 USD, much lower than like developed countries, but still much better than before. Some of our industries and sectors, agriculture is a big one. So some crops like rice, tea and coffee, cashew nuts specifically, are very popular, pepper, rubber, aquaculture too. And then exports is also another big one. There was a recent boom in like electronics export. Tourism, another huge sector. It's great. More people get to see Vietnam. The downside of that, I guess, is that there is more emissions and it's like overcrowding and stuff. But we're working on it. How currency. If you ever go here, you gotta know a little bit about our currency. The present conversion rate is USD to roughly 23,000 VND. So the money is pretty devalued to the point where I guess like it's better to just see like 1 USD equals 23 and then dot 100. Like nowadays we have 100 and 200 VND bills, but we don't use them as much now. Most people start to use like 500 would be kind of like the baseline of what people commonly use now. Last thing, if you travel here, you should know a few words. Conversational words, hello or hi is xin chào, and I add like the English pronunciation. I tried my best, but it's like xin chào. I guess that works too. And then some transactional words. So if you go out and you want to buy something, you want to know how much it costs, you can say bao nhiêu. And then so like one of the things you can ask is how much money, aka how much does something cost. You can say bao nhiêu tiền. So yeah, that's for reference if you guys ever want to learn some Vietnamese word. Lifestyle. So the ratio of rural to urban population is 3 to 2. The trend though is that urban populations are growing rapidly, so it should overtake rural lands by 2040. It's pretty insane, I guess. Population size. So I had to do quite a bit of math here, busting out some high school math skills. We have 96. So I compared it to the US. We have 96 million in Vietnam. US is 328 million. So that's about a ratio of 33 to 100. Land area, ours is 127,000 miles squared. The US is 3.797 million. And that's a ratio of 33 to 1,000. So if you haven't guessed already, Vietnam is a very densely populated country. And so there's a lot of traffic, a lot of motorbikes, less cars, still a lot of cars. And it really sucks sometimes during rush hours, just how it is. Politics, so we're a Socialist Republic of Vietnam. That's like the full title. And it's led by a Communist Party of Vietnam. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the extent of me knowing our politics. I wish I can know more about it. But yeah. Ethnicity. So we have 54 total recognized ethnic group in Vietnam. The government, although 85% of the entire populations belong to the ethnic Kinh, aka Viet, so hence Vietnam. Family. I do want to talk about family again, as I mentioned. For the most part, Vietnam is a very family-oriented country, and it's like crucial to the overall social dynamic of the country. Family trees are very complex. You have titles. You guys can see, I can't see from my screen because I put it too small, but like, yeah, there's like different titles for depending on like how old they are and relative to you and which part of the family they are. And so like, it's kind of like elders and adults' job to remember these. I mean, my mom's here and she knows. She would walk me during parties. She would kind of like walk me through each table and like she would like whisper me like names, titles, and like where they are in the family because I would have no idea, and my mom would just like know these stuff like right away, and she's like, oh yeah, that's person that, and so like you see that it's like all in like the interactions that people do with each other, and even like social interactions between strangers would promote this kind of like familial atmosphere. If you go up to someone, you can't say the English equivalent of like hello, something like hello, where can I go? Like if I want to look for direction, you have to say something like hello, uncle or aunt. And so like these little details like reflect a sort of like very independent and communal social life. It's like literally ingrained in our language. But yeah, I'll show you guys some of the words. You guys don't have to remember them because there are a lot. But yeah, that's just for males. Any male older than you is an. And then Ju is any male quite older than you. And then is any male much older than you or an elderly. And we have the equivalent for females. And then for people younger than you. Ooh, next part. Ooh, holidays. Fun celebration. Yay. So our holidays are based off, they operate by the lunar calendar, and it's essentially like unlike what most of us are used to, the solar or Gregorian calendar. That's like 365 days per year, which it tracks the movement of like the sun and how long it takes to revolve around the earth. No, how long the earth takes to revolve around the sun. This one tracks the movement of the moon, and so it takes about 355 days That would equal about a year. And so important holidays does not align on the same solar date every year. Um, my parents and grandparents would keep track of these dates, and it's what people just use to schedule like weddings and celebrations. And so, especially to older generation, it's still as much a functioning system as it is the solar calendar that people often use for, like daily living. Common holidays, we have Chinese New Year, so basically New Year based on the lunar calendar. That's us taking picture with our grandpa, all wearing red because it's the lucky color. Kind of have to wear red. It's like saying you don't wear red, you're not going to be lucky for like the whole year. Or if you pout too, which my sister does a lot. Trying, I don't know why she does it a lot, but too bad. Yeah, so it lies around. I searched it up. It lies around January 21st to February 21st of each year, and we do things like eat. Yeah, eat, and then we gather as families, play cards, and we also have dragon dances, and so these things are mythological creatures. The closest English interpretation of them are unicorns, and I'm like, what? They're kind of ugly, but unicorns, and we have unicorn dances, and it's really fun. A lot of drummings, a lot of music. Another thing is the Chumpo Mid Autumn Festival. So that's around September. We eat these mooncakes. They're like a soft, not really a pastry, but they're like a soft cake, and they come in flavors like let me see, like mung beans is also a flavor, coconut. Um, so yeah, lotus seeds. And interesting fact, if you ever want to eat them, they're very high in calorie. Like I'm talking, one of those cake can go upward to like 900 and 1,000 calorie. There's like a funny chart where they compare like mooncakes to fast food, and like one of them, like the average is like one mooncake equals like 2 Big Mac and a Coke or something like that. It's crazy. We also celebrate things like holidays and Christmas, Labor Day, Independence Day. Um, but yeah, let's talk more about food. I told myself that I'm definitely going to have an entire section dedicated to food. Iconic food we have in Vietnam, pho is, yeah, I don't know if anyone's familiar. I hope you guys are familiar with pho, but it's great noodle soup. A lot of people loves it. And then soy, sticky rice, and then sweet soup. And then we also have soup that are more like specific to the regions because each region's food are slightly different. Up north, food are more like mild and balanced, and so they would use stuff like pepper and garlic over more direct spices. And we have like fish patties and egg coffee. So it's basically just coffee, but they would foam it with egg. So it's like a foamy layer of egg on top of it, and you can't really taste the egg, but it's really nice. And then central, more stronger, more spicy, and the dish is more complex. They usually have a lot of different little components to it. Like you have like dipping sauce, little dishes for dipping sauce, and then also like dishes for vegetables and dishes for meat, all separate. But here's like one of my favorite, bun bell. It's like a glutinous savory cake thing. Um, on the south, we're down south, we're more biased towards sweetness, and so we have stuff like coconut milk, and we dip things in like hoisin sauce and peanut sauce because it's sweet. And one of my favorite is broken rice, and so broken rice, I think it's just like rice, but when you harvest them, they would break, and people would usually discard them. But I guess some people would try them, and they think it was good, and so they made it into a dish. And you usually have it with like marinated meat. It's super good. It's also kind of unhealthy because of the amount of sugar they put into it, but it's great. I love it a lot. Comfort food. We have braised pork, some of my favorite, and then kowa. I usually like kowa soup, so it's basically bitter melon, and some variant can get very, very bitter. So, and some of our food are actually also influenced. They got a lot of like French influence during like the Indochina colonization of Vietnam. And so things like coffee beans was introduced to Vietnam, banh mi, essentially like a Vietnamese baguette, and also pate and other things like ham or like puff pastry. Yeah, especially in Hanoi too, you can see a lot of this like like a lot of the French influence in like the architecture and the coffee shops. And lastly, shout out to like Vietnamese vegan food. Vietnam, in my personal opinion, has hands down one of my favorite vegan food. And I like to say it's not like vegan food that just are surprisingly good. I'd always say like it's just really good food that happens to be vegan. So yeah, if that's your, like you would always find vegan food everywhere in Vietnam. It's great. Um, Last thing I want to cover is just that with any country, intergenerational differences happens, and then differences in values and practices can be drastic. And so I wanted to just highlight a lot of like the cool things from both of like the more traditional and the more modern side of Vietnam clothing. So this is one of our main traditional clothing. It's called the Ao Yai, and it's like a two-piece thing. So like the top is super long and there's like pant underneath, and they're still worn a lot during like celebrations, like weddings. People would wear them. And for performance art, we have um, a lot of like let's see, one of the four main groups of the instrument is like strings and winds and percussion and bowed strings. I'm not sure what that is, but they're often used in like celebrations, like or comedy theater. Well, actually, no, it's just like a theater. Modern music is more like mainstream music, but also like some music incorporate like cultural instrument into them. Like there's this song, and it's this song in specific was filmed in like the highlands of Vietnam, and it showcases the Thai ethnic group in Vietnam around this area. Let's see, food. Food is traditional. Food is still very prominent. Street food is still like a really big thing. Starbucks and fast food chains like McDonald's aren't able to compete as much, at least I know, in like the Vietnamese market, just because people still prefer like street food and like just family home cooked meal, and that's also much cheaper. Technology, so pretty much in any places, technology have like really shaped how people do things. One particular thing is that we usually have things like these carriages called siklo, and yeah, there would be like taxis kind of, they would be everywhere, and you can like go on one and go around, and it's really nice because you can, it's like still out in the open. And we also have thing like Seom, which is like a hug vehicle. People don't actually hugs, but it's like people would actually, their job would be to drive around and just like see if anyone who's waiting for them. So it's like a very informal kind of thing, but like people who wait for them are like, oh, I'm waiting for us, that person who's doing that job to like drive around and pick me up and go somewhere. But now we have things like Uber and Grab bikes, and they're much more common, which is, I think it's nice because like drivers are matched with passengers instead of having to like drive around and like search for people. Social media is obviously a lot more common. My family Facebook chat all the time, and so at least in my personal opinion, all generations in Vietnam are quite receptive to these kind of changes to their lifestyle. Since I'd say like in a lot of ways, it also makes their life easier. Then we're gonna go to present day now. How Vietnam has been dealing with COVID-19. Vietnam was among the first country to get our first case of the virus, at least like officially reported. And as of January 13, there's been a total of 1,520 cases and 35 deaths. So I would say for a densely populated area like Vietnam, we did pretty well, and we're still going in that trajectory. I'd say from what I read from the Guardians, it's just that people were quick to follow restrictions, and restrictions were implemented very promptly and appropriately. And government were pretty quick to inform and educate the public. And so there was even like this fun how to like fight coronavirus song that kind of went viral in Vietnam, and it was featured on John Oliver. So if you guys are interested, you can check that out. But yeah, that's the state of the country right now. Bibliography, and then question time. That's pretty much it. I do just want to quickly say thank you to anyone who came today. It's really fun. In case anyone who in case anyone who do have to leave now, I really just want to say really appreciate it that you guys came.